This is it, guys. This is the big one. The FedEx truck just arrived and dropped off this box, which is bigger and heavier than I thought it would be, but that means it's probably packaged pretty well, and that's a good thing, because what's inside of this box is nothing short of my comic book Grail. Now, if you're a longtime viewer of Lunch Money Comics, you probably would have had a good guess as to what this was, but even if you weren't, I'm pretty sure I know what the thumbnail and title of this video is going to be, which means you clicked on this video, you already know exactly what it is. So there's no point in dragging this on any longer. Let's open it up. I can't wait to see it. All right, so I'm gonna have to cut like most of this unboxing footage because yeah, this book was packaged like Fort Knox. It's probably taken me 4 or 5 minutes just to actually get to this inner package here. And guys, if you're gonna send a book like this is the way to do it. So full props to the seller here. I can see it. Get rid of that. Wow. I can't believe I'm holding this book. I can't believe I own this book. No point dragging on any longer, guys. You know exactly what book this is. There it is. This is X-Men #1 from 1963. Jack Kirby, Stan Lee creation. And this is, of course, the origin and first appearance of the superhero team, the X-Men. First appearance of Professor X, Cyclops, Jean Grey, Beast, Iceman, and Angel. And the first appearance of my favorite character in this comic book, Magneto. A comic book Grail for any X-Men collector, or anyone who loves Marvel for that matter. Wow, I can't believe I have it. You can see here that this is a CGC 1.8 off-white pages. And I tell you what, guys, you know, I obviously saw pictures before I got this book, and I thought to myself, wow, that is a great presenting 1.8. I don't know if I'm just looking at this through rose-tinted glasses, but I think this is the best 1.8 I've ever seen. I mean, look at this. You guys be the judge. I mean, look at it. It looks great, even the back. Now, I looked at the grader notes, and the reason why this is sort of like the best case scenario for a 1.8 is almost all the damage is on the spine. And actually, you can only really see it on the back. You can see it right there. It's split from about here down to here. A couple small pieces missing. The back cover is detached from that top staple. But I'm telling you guys, you ever hear the term buy the book, not the grade? The idea behind that is, you know, a lot of times we just look at this grade and we determine our price and cost and how much it's worth to us based on that grade. But it really comes down to how the book looks and if you're okay with it. And whereas most of the damage on this book is on the spine, you can't see it on the cover. I think it's a great presenting 1.8. I have a 1.8 behind me that's missing a whole bottom corner. This looks way better. Actually, this looks better than my giant size X-Men #1 that's a 2.5 back there. This, to me, guys, presents like a 3.0. And I've also seen, you know, higher grade comic books that have, you know, no really defects, you know, no splits or tears that have a much higher grade but are really faded. You ever see that? They almost are completely washed out. I would much rather have brighter colors. And you see here, look at the colors on this. You know, there's a little bit of damage on it. Like there's a little bit of, it's light right here on the comic code and next to Iceman's head is a little bit of color lift. But guys, come on. You know, I gotta take it out of this bag. Yeah, take it out of the bag. Really show you guys. Get a good look at it here. Come on. Come on. What about that? Unbelievable. So this is my comic book Grail, guys. It was a 2024 goal of mine. This was my #1 goal of this year. And here I am barely 3 months into the year. And I have my comic book Grail. Now, when I was a kid, I always wanted this book. But back then, it seemed like owning this book was impossible. And then when I became an adult and I had some more disposable income, it seemed improbable. And even after I started Lunch Money Comics and my collection really started to grow, dare I say, it seemed impractical. And I say that because this is an objectively expensive book. Absolutely. And this is Lunch Money Comics, after all. I pride myself on finding comic books cheap in strange and unusual places. And I had delusions of grandeur that I would find this comic book in the wild and have a great story to tell to you guys. Well, here's the thing. Yes, I bought this comic book and it cost a lot of money. As a matter of fact, I think I've only spent more money on cars and houses. I've flown to Europe, had European vacations cheaper than this comic book. However, I don't view my acquisition of this comic book to be a purchase. I see it more as a trade. Because if you follow the paper trail back from this book, you will realize that it all started in a strange and unusual place, in an item that I leveraged into this book that I bought for $5. For real. I got something for $5 that I was able to turn into an X-Men #1. Now, I know what some of you were thinking, Mike, you are full of it. And others of you actually saw me buy this on Instagram and know exactly how much I spent on this comic book. But here's the thing. This video you're watching right now isn't actually about this comic book at all. It's not. This is about the story of how I got my comic book Grail. And it's a story of dedication, persistence, a little bit of luck, a big lack of sleep, and mostly of failure. And I'm hoping, at the very least for some of you, it's an entertaining story about how I got this book. But for some of you, what I'm really hoping for is that this story serves as an inspiration for you. That you can get that big comic book Grail that you've always wanted, that you thought you'd never be able to afford. I'm telling you guys, with a little bit of elbow grease and a little bit of luck, you absolutely can get these books. So I'm pretty excited to actually tell this whole story now that I have the end goal in my hands. So sit back, guys. Hopefully this will be an enjoyable story of how I got my comic book Grail for $5. So I think a good place to start is, what is Lunch Money Comics? Yeah, it's the name of the channel, but a lot of people erroneously think that it's because I only buy cheap comics for like the cost of a lunch. Yeah, I like buying cheap comic books, but that's actually not why my channel's named that. I've told the story on my channel in the past. This is for those of you that don't know, but when I was a kid, I was rather poor. We didn't have a lot of money when I was a kid, and I hated asking my parents for money, so I would always scrimp and save change for wherever I could find it to buy the things I wanted. And because I was really into comic books, and they cost like $1 or $1.25 when I was a kid, I would just try to save up enough money over a course of a week to get 1, maybe 2 comic books. And the best way I found to do this was to starve. I would get money every day for lunch, and I would just not eat that much. I would eat a bagel or like a cookie, and I would put the rest of the change, those nickels, dimes, and quarters, in the little zipper pouch in my school backpack, so that at the end of the week, I could ride my bike all the way across town, down really, really busy, dangerous streets, way too dangerous for an 11-year-old, to go to my LCS and buy 1, maybe 2 comic books. And I would cherish those books, you know, because I didn't have many of them. I also told this story on my channel one time. I was there at my LCS, and I was really into the 2099 Marvel series, and I had all the first issues except Spider-Man 2099. Well, I saw that beautiful red cover at my LCS, but it was $5, and I only had like $2 on me. So I was determined to get the money for it. I got on my bike, went all the way back home, going under, couch cushions, trying to find the change, still couldn't come up with it. So then I happened to live next to a park that had like a baseball field and a concession stand that sold hot dogs and pizza, and most importantly, soda or pop, depending on where you live, which were in aluminum cans, and people would buy this stuff and throw them in the trash cans. And I would often go over there and literally like dumpster dive to get these cans. So that's what I did. Guys, picture those big metal ones, those trash barrels. They don't even bother putting a bag in. It's covered in bees, and there's like a good, 3 inches of liquid in the bottom. Yeah, that's what I did. I jumped in all those things. I got enough cans for the difference. I rode my bike to the Redemption Center, got all those nickels, rode all the way back across town to get my 1 Spider-Man 2099 #1. And I still have that book in my collection, and it's perfect, by the way. It's absolutely perfect. It's in perfect shape because I coveted it. And that's why my channel is called Lunch Money Comics, guys. It's because I remember being a kid and not having much money, and the idea that you have to fight hard for every single penny to get the things that you want. And that hasn't been lost on me. Even as an adult now, I'm not poor. I have disposable income, but still, I buy things cheap. I have a hard time buying luxury items. I mean, what is this? This is a first world luxury item. It's expensive paper. This is silly, guys. This is a lot of money for a book like this. I could have put towards, bringing my family on a nice vacation or putting it into my kids' college fund. But I bought a comic book, and that seems silly to me. I would never use house expenses. But if it's something I got organically through hunting in strange and unusual places and buying things cheap, then I'm okay working my way up to this. And I think that's the correct and safe and responsible way to do it. So with that whole story in mind, let's go back to last summer and some hard lessons I learned. Beginning of the summer, I saw an estate sale It was about an hour and a half from my house, and I figured, oh, I'll have to be early. This estate sale had like, sports memorabilia, sports cards, and of course some comic books. So I'm like, an hour early, I'm gonna be fine. Got up early, drove all the way down there. 1 hour early, I walk up to the people running this estate sale, and they hand me a little piece of paper with a number on it, and that number was 42. And the guy said, congratulations, you're 42nd in line. I asked him, well, what time were the people here, that got the number 1? He's like, oh, they were at least 2 hours early. If you're not 2 hours early, you might as well not come. So I still waited like a fool, finally walked in as the 42nd person. Of course, everything was bought. Lesson learned. So a few weeks later, I get another hot tip about another estate sale that had comic books. I'm up late at night, guys, 11, midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning, scouring Facebook, Instagram, anywhere I can to find like yard sales, flea markets, things like that. And I see this posting of an estate sale about an hour away from me that had a whole bunch of Golden Age comics. And from the little grainy pictures, I knew there's some pretty good stuff in there. There's some DC comics. There is some Good Girl comics. I was definitely excited to check it out. But there was one comic book I could see in those pictures that I couldn't identify. It was orange, it was small, like an ash can size, and I could see it just said Archie. And in my quick review of the internet, I couldn't find anything on it. I said, all right, back in my mind, that's interesting. So I decided I was going to get up super early. So I went to bed at 1 o'clock in the morning, and I'm laying there thinking, what time do I have to get up? What time do I have to get up? I could not sleep. Well, at 3 o'clock in the morning, having not slept at all, I decided I'm just going to get up. I got up, got in my car, drove an hour away, and I got there 2 hours early. It was pouring rain. I walk up to the front of this house, first in line, not even sure if it's the right house. And immediately after I get there, 2 people walk up behind me and they ask, are you here for the comic books? I said, yeah. So I knew I was in the right place and I was early and I was first in line. Now, I had no idea how much money these books would be, but I had $300 in cash only. Now, yeah, $300 is kind of a lot of money, but let me tell you how I got that $300. I got it because the previous week I had sold at a flea market. And what did I primarily sell? Vintage toys, yes, but lots of back issues of comics. Comics I found in strange and unusual places. A lot of comic books that I bought for a nickel earlier that year. I sold all those comic books to another comic book dealer at the end for $300. That was the money that was sitting in my wallet. I'm the first one in there. I start grabbing these books that I wanted, looked at the prices. These are great. I'm going to buy $300 worth. Grabbed all the DC books, all the Good Girl books. And then I remembered that Archie, but I couldn't see it. So I asked the other guys who were looking at the comic books, like, hey, did you guys see like a little orange Archie? And one guy said, yeah, it's right here. And he lifted up his stack of comics that he was buying, and it was underneath. And I said, are you buying it? He said, no, I don't care about that. I picked it up, looked at it, and it had a price tag of $5. When you haven't seen something before, guys, grab it. So I had about $330 worth of comic books. I walked up to the people selling. I said, hey, I only have $300. Is that okay? They said, sure. And I walked out of there as if I just robbed the place. I felt like I had the best score ever. I was pumped. I did a whole video on it. Definitely check out that video, guys. But still, I didn't know exactly what I had. So I got home. I contacted my good friend, Alan, the comic collector geek, who knows everything about Golden Age books. We got on the phone. We went through this whole collection. He priced it for me, told me which ones were great, and I knew I did really, really wonderful. But the one thing we couldn't identify was that Archie. So here's the thing I've never really told. A lot of those comic books I got that were in that video, Alan, hopefully I'm not speaking out of turn, but Alan, who loves Golden Age books, actually bought half of those from me right then and there. Basically, 2 hours after I bought these things, I doubled my money. I gave him a screaming deal, by the way. You're welcome, Alan. But thank you, Alan, for helping me appraise all these things. And then subsequently, over the next couple months, I sold or traded away a lot of the rest of those books, including a book I traded for a huge chunk of my Chris Claremont run. I finished my Chris Claremont run at the end of 2023, it's in part because I got an awesome book in this estate sale that I traded. So I got rid of most of that collection. I have one book left, a Superman book, but still I had this Archie left over. I put the video out there. I appealed to the comic book community, identified this thing for me. A lot of people contacted me, and what we figured out was it was a rare 1949 December issue of an Archie fan club comic book that was given out at shoe stores in the late 40s and early 50s. Now, a lot of people showed me other examples of something like it from the same period, stuff from the previous months. There was like an October one that had like Halloween themed stuff. There's some of the stuff from the 50s. But nobody had ever seen this copy from December of 1949. And in doing some more research, found out there was none of them on the census. There was no record of this book ever being sold. I had people that contacted me that actually collect these specific things that have told me I've never seen that before. So I knew it was special, period. But the other thing that made this incredibly unique was that it was in incredible shape. It looked like it was stored between two books. It was flat. It was perfect. There was one tiny color break on it. So knowing that it had a lot of value, a lot of people told me this, I gave it to my friend Jeff from Comic Spot. He cleaned it and pressed it. It came out great. And on the advice of many, I sent it in to get graded. And it came back as a CGC 9.2. So not only was it the highest on the census, it was the only book on the census. So as soon as I posted that video of that unboxing, I had a ton of people contacting me wanting to buy this book or trade this book. And I heard some very generous trades, and I really thought about it. But as soon as I got this book, guys, as soon as I kind of had an idea of what the value would be, I knew it was my ticket to X-Men #1. And I had a lot of people tell me, just sell the book, you're playing with house money, just get out, take whatever trade you can. But Jeff from Comic Spot was sort of the angel on my shoulder telling me, that is your ticket to X-Men #1. Don't accept anything less than that. Either trade someone straight up who has an X-Men #1 and wants this Archie, or sell the Archie and buy this. So I held out. Absolutely. I had some fantastic trade offers on the table, guys, but not for an X-Men #1. So I decided, not finding any X-Men #1s for trade, that I would sell this. And everyone told me to sell it via auction. But I'd never done that before, right? Through any of these, comic book auction companies. So I asked my friends, and my good buddy Rohan from the Absolute Game of Nerds had an idea. He happened to have the number of Steve Borok on him, who was the founder of CBCS and is now involved with the online auction site Comic Link. He had reached out to him and said, my friend Mike has a one-of-a-kind rare Archie. So I said, hey, thanks, maybe I'll contact him. Didn't really know what to do, kind of dragged my feet. Finally, I just texted Steve. I didn't want to bother this, important person. And I said, hey, I got this rare Archie. Rohan, talk to you. Out of the blue, my phone rings, and it was Steve Borok. And he said, Mike, I heard your story about your Archie. I never cold call people, but we have a big auction coming up at the end of the year. I would love for this comic book to be in our auction. And I was blown away. I mean, what fantastic customer service. He told me the terms. They do all the work. I just have to send it to them. And I said, okay, well, I'd like to think about it. And he said, I hate to put the pressure on you, but the big year-end auction starts in a week and a half. So think about it, but you have to think about it in the next day. So I thought about it for a couple of hours, and I said, you know what? This is a learning experience. It sounds fun. It'll be a great story. Sure. So I took this my baby, this amazing comic book I had, I packaged it up, hoped for the best. And then I had to watch this auction that lasted a week, excruciatingly, watching the book just go up a little bit at a time. People assured me in the last days and hours it'll skyrocket. And sure enough, in the last couple of days, that book went up. And I know a lot of people have been asking, I've never given that number out, but I sold that rare Archie for just shy of $4,000 out of a book that I got for $5. And yeah, I graded it. I paid for that. I also gave some money to Comic Spot for cleaning and pressing. Still, guys, clearly I wasn't into it that much. So I have this money sitting in my Lunch Money Comics account. Now what? I have enough money to buy a low-grade X-Men #1, but I was still holding out hope I'd find one in the wild. I was hoping that I would find someone who had one and I'd be able to give them a good offer because I had the money in my account. But the comic book gods had other plans. So it was early in the morning. I was working, and two of my friends contacted me and said, you have to see this X-Men book that's on Instagram. It had been posted by @LastComics. Now, those of you who are on Instagram, you see these vendors all the time. They basically act as middlemen to sell comic books from people. And they do all the legwork of advertising and putting out there, making all the connections. They take a small fee in exchange. And honestly, guys, since I've been on Instagram, it is a fantastic way to buy comic books if it's a reputable source. And there's some absolutely awesome vendors out there. Well, I've never used @LastComics before, but when I looked at this book, this X-Men #1 and a 1.8, my first reaction was, wow, that's a good looking 1.8. And my second reaction was, I can buy that. I had the money for it. It's pretty much exactly what I was looking for. So I asked my friend Rohan, Absolute Game of Nerds, who's also looking for an X-Men 1 to sort of comp it out for me. He did. He's like, that's a great price. So I said, what do I have to lose? I actually contacted them. I DM'd them, actually gave them a lower offer, thinking that there's no way this book's going to last another 5 minutes. It was such priced so well. They came back with a counter offer. Yeah, and with heart racing, I just said, sure. And I bought myself a 1.8. I didn't know if I did the right thing. I couldn't believe it. My heart was pounding. Yes, I bought this X-Men #1, and the final cost was $4,300. That is a lot of cheddar cheese. That is a lot of lunch money. But all of that money, all of it, every penny that went into this, I got from comic books that I got in strange and unusual places. And again, if you follow that paper trail back. Now, guys, here's the moral of the story. Yeah, I view it as a trade. I traded that old Archie for this X-Men 1. But you can sort of extrapolate this to your own life in a lot of ways, not just comic books. It's a story, like I said, of failure. Over and over and over again. I don't always find success. I do have good luck from time to time, but I make my own luck. I'm doing the research. 1 in the morning, I'm online trying to find the big sales the next day, trying to find these estate sales. I failed the first time I went to that estate sale for comic books. I wasn't early enough. I learned a lesson. The next time, I went even earlier. I had the cash on me, that I got from, selling comic books at a flea market. All those things happened because I was persistent. It's the 99 times I failed don't really matter so much as the one time that you're going to succeed, but you have to put in that legwork. You got to put in that elbow grease to finally have it pay off. And I don't even like using the word failure. And I'll tell you why. Because yeah, I got other great books. I don't have to have a smashing success every time as long as I get something. But for me, it's a little bit different. Because for me, it's the thrill of the hunt. Even when I'm out there, exhausted and tired, it's cold and I'm at a flea market, it's the idea that just around the corner, the next vendor, under this stack of books right here, there might be something really special. That thrill of the hunt is incredibly exciting. And even if I don't find an amazing comic book, even if I fail, I still have a fantastic, fantastic time. But it's different when you have a YouTube channel, right? Because even all those other times where I didn't end up with an X-Men #1, I have a digital postcard reminding me of that trip. I have, for all time, I can go back and look. I've never go back, by the way. I've never watched one of my older videos. It's way too cringy. But the fact that I could go back and see these experiences is pretty fantastic. And I have probably 130 videos. I have thousands more in my head of those amazing memories. And the idea that I can share those experiences with all of you is why I started Lunch Money Comics in the first place. So in a lot of ways, guys, it's not failing. It's not failing at all. It's, a journey. You guys ever hear that analogy? I'm going to sound like, an inspirational poster, but it's not the destination. It's the journey and the friends you make along the way. It's absolutely true. It's absolutely true. I've met so many fantastic people since my channel started on my journey. It's not about the books. It's about the experience. And I feel like I have something like this is sort of just redemption and tells me that, yeah, it may take you a little while, but if you work hard, you can definitely have amazing things happen to you. So there's the story, guys. Again, for some of you, yeah, it was a long-winded story by Mike, and a lot of this stuff was in previous videos, which I will link to all over the place. But I hope for some of you, that was a little inspirational. I hope some of you watch this and think, you know what? Maybe I will get up a little earlier next time. Maybe I'll drive a little bit farther. Maybe, just maybe, the very next hunt you go on will have your comic book grail. That's it, guys. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching. I don't want you to think that this is the end of my story. Lunch Money Comics still going on. I'm just changing my goals. But this is one big goal down, and many more adventures, many more failures, and many more mental postcards lie in my future. And I'm really excited. I'm going to get to share them with all of you. Keep hunting in those strange and unusual places because amazing things can happen. Thank you all for watching again, and I'll see you all in the next one.